That said, let's get into this. So my name is Khara, and I come to you from Lincoln, Nebraska, where I am, as Carolyn said, an artsy-fartsy creative type that teaches stuff. So I have been a designer and a professional photographer for, I don't know, eons, since the last century. You know what I'm talking about. And I love this stuff, and I'm a huge nerd, and I fall down the rabbit holes, and I get obsessed with things, and I learn all about them, and then I get so excited that I'm like, oh my gosh, let me show you what I figured out, or what I did the completely wrong way so that you can do it better. And somehow all of that turned into a teaching career, and I've been so grateful to speak at great industry events like Creative Pro and Adobe Max and so many great things. And I teach online. I have classes on Skillshare, and you can find me on YouTube and blah, 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 blah. But now I'm here to speak with you guys about the nuts and bolts of InDesign. I'm going to set this down because I got stuff to do, and I need my hands, because we're, hold on, okay. You guys can hear me though, yeah, right? Because I'm loud. But I can't walk around anyway because I have to push buttons. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And I want to say, this big old QR code up here is a link to my Dropbox folder where you can get this very demo file that we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. I should have said this at the top. I'm going to give you a couple seconds if you want to grab that URL. And then you can download and you can do all of this later. The intention was not like we're going to step-by-step walk through it here because we don't have time for that. But I did intend that you could like come back to this later and be like, wait a minute, how did she do that one thing? And then you can find the page, and I actually like typed up little instructions, and I made like layers and practice things, and it's all baked in here, and hopefully you guys find it helpful. Okay. So look at that. Here we are right in InDesign already. No PowerPoint stuff in here today. All right, here is our table of contents of what we're going to talk about today. Maybe we can get through it all. I don't know. We'll do our best. But I'm also going to show you at the end how you create a table of contents, because you don't do it. InDesign does it, and it's amazing, and it's automated, and it's easy, and it's fast, and you update it with a single click, and hopefully we'll get through everything, and I'll get to show you that later. But it's here so that you can see all the stuff. Okay, so first, nuts and bolts of InDesign, that means different things to different people, right? As I was saying earlier, some people say like, oh, I don't know anything about InDesign, but they've been using it for 20 years, and they're like, majorly knowledgeable, but they tell me they're a beginner. And then there are people who think they know everything, but like they don't even know enough to know how much they don't know. And so we're just gonna try to ping pong, like kind of hit all the different little bits, okay? So we're gonna start with workspaces and defaults. Simple things like setting up your panels, right? We don't think about this, but we, I think, know that we can save our workspaces, right? You can organize your panels. You can make them usable for you. There are pre-existing workspaces. If you go to the window menu and you look under workspace, these are all these little arrangements of panels that Adobe thinks are helpful, right? Maybe they are to you, maybe they're not, but you can create your own. So that is my first thing that I want to point out, is that if you are not taking advantage of that, you really should be. And then when you make a mess of it and you close things and you lost things and you can't remember how you had it set that you really liked, then you can just come back here and reset it, and you'll get everything back how you like it to be. And it's just a major hassle reducer, okay? The other thing I always like to tell people, or if InDesign completely crashes out and I reinstall it and have to start from scratch, the things I like to change to make my life easier is I turn off the content grabber. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you love the content grabber? Nobody knows. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Yes, because mine is off because I don't. And I have things locked, so we'll have to see. But for example, if I grab this image right here, I don't have that little ball in the middle that lets you grab the contents within the image. And that is because under View, Extras, I have turned off the content grabber right here. So if I now turn it on, this is the content grabber. And if you grew up with the content grabber, maybe you like it. I'm older, I hope, than I look. We did not start out InDesign life with the content grabber, and then when it came into existence, it made me nuts because I'm constantly accidentally moving the image when I meant to move the frame. Okay, so if you are an old dog or you just are a wannabe cool dog, you might want to turn that off. And so that is also back under View, Extras, and now I will choose Hide Content Grabber. So anyway, that's just what that is. There's instructions here, right? The other thing that people get hung up with in InDesign is they're like recreating color swatches from scratch all the time. They work on one document, they close it, they make a whole new one, and then they're like, oh, I have to recreate all of these swatches. There's so many different ways around that. One is, of course, you can use libraries, and we can talk more about that maybe, but that's a thing you can do. And another thing that you can do is just import your swatches from an existing document. And here's the trick, and this is all explained in here. That you want to set it up while you have no open documents, okay? If you import swatches into your swatches panel with a document open, those swatches belong to the document. If you set up your swatches panel while nothing is open, that is your new swatches default. So do it, get all your swatches in there while nothing is open, and then you'll never have to set it up again, unless you're working on something different, really specific, whatever. So that is a good one to know. Also, same with fonts, same with text. If you're constantly like, how did Comic Sans become my default in InDesign, right? And then you're like, I don't know how this happened. It's okay, just close everything, choose the font that you want to just be the thing that shows up before you change it to something else, and that will be the new default for you. So just important little things. You can also load styles. How many of you use styles? Okay, we should be seeing all hands, but I get it. Some of you haven't seen that light yet. I'm gonna hopefully give you some. We should all be using styles. It is a pain to get set up sometimes. When you're new, you just feel like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with styles. But trust me, dealing with styles is easier than dealing with all the edits that you would manually have to do. And we all know we're trying to save time in the moment, but we're shooting ourselves in the foot down the road. So you just have to be like, I'm gonna embrace this and I'm gonna do it. And just like swatches, you can load styles from other documents. So for example, this is my paragraph styles panel box. And any of the styles, any of the panels, if you come up here to the panel menu and you choose load paragraph styles, you can then navigate to whatever document has the styles that you want in it. Same with swatches. All of that stuff, and then you would select it, click open, and the styles from that document will load into your panel, and you can use them in other documents, or in this document, or whatever. Okay, so I just point that out because it's helpful. The other thing that you're gonna see me doing a lot is toggling this preview on and off. That is what I call wonderful mode, because the keyboard shortcut is W. And it is wonderful because it hides all the icky stuff on the screen. So if I'm not in wonderful mode, look at this. I can see my hidden characters, because I guess I have that option on, but I can the framey bits, I can see margins, I can see guides, and that is not pretty, and I want to see how this is going to look when I send it out into the world. So I press W for wonderful mode, and it just makes me happy. Okay, How many of you guys know about pre-flight panels? The pre-flight panels. A couple of you. Okay. How many of you are bothered by this? Okay, my dock keeps jumping up. But this little thing down here that sometimes turns red, does that bother anyone? Must not. I want to know your secret. How do you overcome it if you don't use pre-flight panels? What is this? Okay, this is like the little monitor that's keeping track of everything you do in InDesign. And it's keeping track of things like, did you non-proportionally scale an image? It's going to alert you. Did you have a missing link somewhere? It's going to alert you. Do you have overset text in one of your text frames? You are going to get a red light. Now, I work a lot with demo files that I'm creating for things such as this, and I have overset text everywhere all the time because it's the nature of what I do. And I don't care because I'm never printing this, and so it's fine. So what you can do is create your own custom profile. So think of the pre-flight profile that lives in the pre-flight panel. This is a tongue twister. Think of it like your own personal security guard. And you can tell it what you want it to warn you about, or you can tell it what you do not care about and you wish it would just stop bothering you. So here's how you do it. You come down, well, there's a couple ways. But down here, since this is like where it enters your life, is with the red light down here. If you click this little caret, and we open up the pre-flight panel window, which you can also, of course, find under the window menu. Over here, you see we're using what's called the basic working profile. Okay, and somehow it tells me I have no errors because I built this document so carefully for you guys. But let's just create an error, shall we? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to make a text frame, blah, 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 and I'm going to overset it. Oh, now we have overset type, and look, it's like you have a 1 error, and for every instance, it's going to just tally it up for you. And I don't like that. So what I've done is I've created my own profile. So those are like the instructions you give the bouncer at your club. And you say who gets in, who doesn't get in, what is allowed, what is not allowed. And so we could do that by choosing new pre-flight panel and new pre-flight panel. And then we're going to go in here. Come on. Sorry. No, we need to go to Define Profiles. My bad. From the panel menu, you choose Define Profiles. Here, you can name your new pre-flight panel, whatever you want to call it, like bounce on, get out of my club, right? So we'll call it bounce on. And here, you can go in and tell it what you want it to care about. And I can go into text, and I can say, stop talking to me about overset text. And I can turn that off, and then I can save it, and I can click OK. And now, when I put the active bouncer on duty by choosing my bounce profile right here, look at that. It says no errors, even though I very clearly still have overset type right there. But I just told it I don't care. Okay, so these are look at all the different security bouncers that work at my club, and depending on what night of the week it is and what's going on, I can choose who I want to be bouncing at my door, right? So basic working is going to be like the default, and that's going to kick you an error. So whatever is important to you, you can customize your pre-flight panel, and that is all I'm going to say about that. Okay, let's talk about color palettes. How many of you are trying to use the eyedropper and then you accidentally click on the color theme tool? And you're like, what is this? How do I use it? It's making me bonkers. Here's how you use it. So if you mouse over an image and click on it, it generates a color palette for you. That's it. That's how it works from the image. And it gives you a few choices because it's begging to please you. So if we click this little caret, we see there are different styles of palettes, colorful, bright ones, dark ones, deep ones, muted colors, etc. And then from over here, if we click on this right here, this is going to add all of these swatches to our swatches panel. So it just added this colorful theme right here. If we twirl this open, look at that. And we can also add it to your CC library. But my favorite thing about it is that I can mouse over here and I can click to put the color in that object. And if I use my arrow keys, I can cycle through this little color theme. So it's kind of like a mini on-the-fly color swatch panel. So I could just go through here, use my arrow keys to move through all these colors and make myself a little swatches panel or design whatever I'm doing. Okay, so that is also available in here for you guys to explore. Now let's talk about styles. What are they? They're just like little presets, okay? They're little recipes for text, for objects, for any number of things, okay? The text ones come in two flavors, and this is where people get really confused because we talk about paragraph styles and we talk about character styles. And the number one question besides what are styles? The other number one question is, what is the difference between paragraph styles and character styles? And I'm gonna tell you. Paragraph styles are kind of the overall structure, right? It's like, I want this paragraph to be Arial 12 point whatever. But then within that paragraph, you might want some words to be bold, or you might want some to be italic, or maybe you want one to be in a different color for some reason, or a different font, or it needs to have a different baseline shift, or whatever. There could be a million reasons why you need to override something within the paragraph. That's when you use a character style, okay? And we could do an entire hour or 2 days on styles, so I will spare you. But I did bake some into this document for you so that you can practice with it. So for example, this frame here, yes, it's a text box, but it can also be treated as an object. So I can tell the object how I want the object to look by using my object styles. And I have one here called text frame. And when I click on the text frame object style, InDesign knows, why is this huge? There we go. InDesign knows that the text should be inset from the edges. It knows that the document or the frame should be filled with this green color, okay? So it applied some settings that I defined previously to that object. But we can also go in here and we can define this type. So these are 2 different paragraphs. So I'm going to go into my paragraphs panel, and you'll notice I made a whole separate folder of practice. Oh, look, I wrote paragraphy styles. Well, that's baked in now, so I'm going to leave you that little nugget to remember me by later. Paragraphy styles. So you can play with all of these. And so what did I call this one? H1. There we go. So by clicking on it, now this knows to be 14-point, all caps, bold, century Gothic. And right here, we'll call this body. So when I click on that, it becomes Arial regular 10-point with 15-point leading. Okay? So that is the paragraph style. Here is a header, and this is body copy. But now, what if we want to get in here and we're like, I need gobbledygook to be a different color? Well, if I highlight this and I come up here and I just say, well, I want it to be white. Well, now, when I put my cursor in here, look what's happening. The plus sign is showing that there's an override. That something about this paragraph doesn't fit the description of what that paragraph is supposed to look like. And hint, it's because I changed the color of the words gobbledygook. So rather than be like living with all these overrides that get jacked up every time you need to update the style, what we do instead is we highlight this text and we go to character styles, and I have one called practice white. And when I apply that, it makes the text white, but like in a legal way, so that there's not a pesky little plus sign. So then we can go back and look at our paragraph style and look at that. Now it just says body, and there's no like small fine print, right? So that is the beauty of paragraph styles. And then you can go in and get specific, you know, and you can have as many as you want. So blurgity blah blabble, whatever this says. We can come in here and we'll go back to our character styles, and this could be lime. It doesn't matter. It's all legal because of character styles, okay? And then, of course, we also can apply this when we're working with objects like icons. So if I go back to my object styles, I made a little folder here called Practice Icon Styles. And look at it. I can style all of this. Well, that was anticlimactic. Let's do them all at once so you really are wowed by just clicking on there. And now they're all styled the same, and guess what? This document could be 2,000 pages long, and if I need to go back in and I decide I want the stroke around that circle to be 3 points instead of 2 or whatever it is, I can change it in the style. Why do I have an override? I don't. I think because it was as a group. Okay. Okay, so that's styles. You can play with all that stuff. But also you can take advantage of layers. So your layers panel lives under the window menu, as you would expect. I have mine open over here. And you can see that this document has 2 layers. Now, for those of you who use Photoshop a lot, layers in InDesign is not like layers in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you need a separate layer for everything, right? That makes sense because we're talking about pixels. And if you don't have it on a separate layer, you can't grab it and do anything with it. But in InDesign, we don't have that problem. So the layers are more for just organizational purposes, but they can be useful. You could have a layer where you put all non-printing stuff. So maybe you have instructions for the printer or instructions for whoever's going to be taking over this file from you or whatever. So you can have that. In this document, I have the background layer, which has all the stuff that I didn't intend for you to play with, but newsflash, you can unlock it and play with it if you want. But I locked it for you so you could mess around in this document and not get bamboozled by all the other stuff that might get in the way, right? So then I have this layer here called practice. And one of the things you can practice is adjusting, whoa. You can practice getting your HDMI cable to work. There we go. Did I breathe on it too hard? I don't know. One of the things you can practice doing is adjusting your layers. So you can see that as I click on all of these, they have a red frame around them. That's because the color code for this layer is red, and that's the layer that they're on. But just like in Photoshop and whatever, the stacking order matters. So if I select this square right here, I can see that it's just called square. It doesn't have a name like the others do, and it should probably go behind this blue one. So I can rename it by double-clicking. I lied. Oh, no, you can double-click, but you have to do it slow, and then you have to wait. There it goes. Don't get clicky with it, or you're, like, canceling it constantly. Okay, so we'll just call this one dark green. And now if I want it behind the blue one, I can drag it down here. And of course, you can do keyboard shortcuts for all that too, but sometimes when you have complicated layouts, you really want to be able to adjust things and even lock them in the layers panel. And you can do all of that, and you can lock your individual items here instead of trying to remember the keyboard shortcut that doesn't make any sense and is different between all the different Adobe apps. So the layers panel can be your friend. Okay, how many of you guys are familiar with Gridify? Really? One hand. I'm gonna rock all of your worlds. Are you serious right now, or you're being shy? Because this is amazing. It's like one of my favorite things, and every time I show people who don't know, they're like, what? Okay, so look at this grid here. We've got 3 times 4 is 12 little frames. And, oh, I might have left that on the background layer. I did, because I wanted you to practice unlocking things. So you have to unlock the background layer, and then you can delete it. And I'm going to show you how we make this. And then I'm going to make it on the red layer. with the frame tool. So I'm going to press F for my frame tool, and I'll get out of wonderful mode so I can see my guides. I'm just going to come up here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag on my touchpad, and I'm not letting go. You with me so far? Now I'm going to tap the arrow keys. Instant grid. Now, if you like the game of Twister, there's more you can do with your keys to adjust the spacing between the squares and stuff. It's all written. It's written down here. I'm not going to do it right now because I already feel like I'm going to fall. Okay, but when you're happy with it, you let go, and now I have all those individual frames. And now I can drop stuff in them. So let's go back over to my bridge where, there we are. Where here I'm in bridge and have a random mix of things in here. But we're gonna use some images. I don't remember what I had, but maybe these, I don't know. I'm gonna pick some and, oh, I like this one too. If you guys aren't using Bridge, I cannot recommend it highly enough. You can find a whole live stream I did for Creative Pro just a month ago or something about using Bridge. Check out their YouTube channel. I would be lost without it. Okay, so I've got my images selected, and now I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna go to Tools. No, is that right? No. I always do a keyboard shortcut, so I never remember the longhand way. Hold on, Edit, File. File's where you're gonna go. File, place in InDesign. And now my cursor is gonna come over here loaded with all my images. You can see I have 12, which is gonna be too many, but that's okay. I can also use my arrows to flip through them. So I can be like, I want this one here, we'll put this one here. These are, oh, that guy's so cute, okay. All this stuff. Now let's say that these ones I want to combine. So I'm going to press Escape to just get rid of all my loaded cursor, and I'm going to select these frames, and we're going to go to Object, Paths, Make Compound Path, and now I'm going to go back and get whatever I had here, this guy. And now when I place that in, it's one image split among all the different frames. And then guess what? And I'm being fast because it's written out here, but you can also grab the gap tool, which is this. The keyboard shortcut is U, and guess what you can do with the gap tool, you guys? You can adjust the gap. Like this way, and you can, now it's not doing these because this is a compound path down here. Otherwise it would do the whole, thing. But these are they're special now. But you can adjust the gaps, and then if you try all the modifier keys, and I never remember, oh, there you go. We can adjust spacing by holding Command or Control. I forget what Option does. Oh, that'll lets you move the whole thing. And Shift will let you do just this gap instead of the whole column, okay? So my point is Gridify is awesome. Compound paths are so much fun. And did you even know the gap tool existed? No, now you know. I see a question.
Can you adjust the spacing in the compound path tool?
With the gap tool? Yeah, that's a great question. Can I adjust the spacing down here? And it does not look like I can, which is a bummer. But you can adjust the spacing on the fly while you're dragging. Let me just try and remember. Oh my gosh. Come back while it's working. I'm gonna do that and see if I can remember how this works. Oh, okay, so here I've got a new grid, right? So I just click and drag. I use the arrow keys to make rows and columns, and then this is where it gets hard. I think you have to hold Command or Control. Yeah, Command or Control, and the up and down arrows changes the horizontal spacing between the rows, and then Command or Control left and right arrows changes the columns. And if you're like, I can't do that because it's very twistery. The other thing that you can know is that the spacing that is just the default comes from, under layout, margins and columns, it comes from the gutter right here. So if you change the gutter setting before you draw the frame, that gutter will be the spacing. So, little bonus tip. Yes? Okay, so we have the horizontal rectangle frame tool, right? Then we have an elliptical frame tool and the polygonal frame tool. So those are the, if you want like a custom shape, you'd have to draw it or use, you know, a SVG file or something like that. But these are the existing built-in shapes. Okay, see, good stuff, right? Okay, here's one that nobody talks about. And it's so helpful, and I was so guilty of this too. And I have a feeling we might have this in common. Okay, so we're gonna talk about making better text frames. So what you wanna do is this. This is a single box. There's one box there. This is not this, which has a text frame and then a box. And then you're like, okay, Khara, but there's this thing called grouping. You can group this so that you don't have to mess with it. Yes, you can. You can group it. But it's a royal pain in the butt. And a lot of times to make changes later, you have to ungroup it. And also, how do you know that the text is in the center of that frame? Because you can center this box all you want. Oh, man. You can center that text box within there all you want, but the text itself is not within the center of the box that it is in. So you can see where this becomes a bit of a conundrum. So how do you do it? Okay, so you draw a frame, first of all. I'll just make a whole new one here. You draw a frame, and then you put some type in it. And then we should probably change the paragraph something to like, something without the underline because that is confusing. We'll call it this, okay, whatever. So here we have text, right? And now we need to center the text both vertically in the box, also horizontally in the box, and then we want to make sure that it's inset away from the edges of the box. So my tip to you here is, yes, you can click on this and we'll click the center button with the type tool. Gotta have the type tool. We could center it. Woo! We did that. But now we want to make it better. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Command or Control B for better. That brings up your text frame options. Command or Control B to make it better. And then there's two places that you end up having to adjust this stuff. One is under the general column, or tab, whatever you want to call that. Down here under vertical justification, right now that text is aligned to the top, as is the default. What we want is the center. And now the annoying thing is you're not going to see it unless you turn on preview. You always have to click to turn it on. Okay, so now it's centered, but is it? And also, what if you have like descenders in your font? You have a squirrely, I don't know, R that's like swooshing down or something like that. Now we need to be really specific about where we're counting the baseline for centering that vertical text. So for whatever reason, Adobe put it over here under baseline options. And here we can offset the baseline based on any number of things, ascenders, cap height, leading, X height, or it can be fixed. So here you have to kind of just experiment. I find that cap height and X height, did you see it moved like a width of a pica or something? It moved a little bit, and I feel better about it now. So we'll click OK. We're almost there. The other thing we want to do is add a color fill, okay? And you can have a color fill and and text in the same box. You don't have to make a separate box to get that color fill. All we need to do is make sure that this is selected, and we're gonna come up to our fill swatches up here. You can do it here too, but I've decided I like it this way the best. So you can come up here, and now we wanna make sure we tell InDesign, are we trying to change the color of the frame itself or the text within the frame? So if I want the frame to be neon green, then I want to make sure this is selected. And then, so I've got this selected, and then I'll come down here and set the fill to green, right? And if I want to change the type, then you have to click the text, and then we can make it this dark green, or you can't even see that. There we go. That's not showing up very well on screen, but anyway, it's changing, right? So you target the container or the text itself, and then you don't have all these boxes, and if you need to resize this, and maybe you need like a tall thing now, it will retain the whole situation. And then you can save it as an object style and apply it with a click, and you can, do all the amazing things that object styles do. Okay, so you want to do it this way, not with multiple boxes doing this kind of action. And here's one for you that's like kind of set up already, but you can make it better with Command or Control B. Okay. Anchored objects. Where are we in our list here? We have a lot of stuff. Okay. So I'm trying to decide where we want to prioritize. Do you guys use anchored objects? Do you know what they are? Maybe you don't know why you would use them. Okay, I'll show you. This is quick. It doesn't have to be forever, okay? What you need to know about anchored objects is that there's basically 3 different types. What is an anchored object? It's an object, like a picture, that is anchored to something like text so that when the text moves, the object moves. So this is what saves your life every time that you're like, I need this picture to line up with Niobrara, and I want this picture to line up with McConaughey, and this one. These are all destinations in Nebraska, if anyone wondered. Platte River, and this needs to line up with Smith Falls. That is so easy, and you're like, I don't need anchored objects. Well, then you come in here and realize more copy got added to this. Whoops, and apparently a lot, and I have some keep options on, which are gonna make this difficult. One moment, keep options. No. Where did they, oh man. I don't know if this thing didn't crap out on me at all this morning. Do my tech friends have any magical answers? Why it's doing that? Does it help if I plug in my dongle? Yeah, it's, okay, we're gonna try one thing. Because I come prepared, and I brought my dongle, but then I was like, I don't have to use it because the new Mac has a, okay, I'm gonna get it ready. It's gonna be ready in case we need it. Okay, the point is, if we start adding text here, the text shifts, and now we have to readjust the images, and it's an endless battle, and it's a pain, okay? So what we do is we get these where we want them, and we anchor them to the text, and it's so easy. So I'm gonna select this first box, and then I'm gonna take this little red dot. Maybe you've wondered, what is that there for? We can drag it. I don't know why the screen blanked out, but there we go. I dragged it in here, and what you can't see very well is that little Y. You see the little Y symbol? I have my hidden characters turned on. Normally you wouldn't see that. But when you have hidden characters turned on, that symbol is an anchor. You can think of Y for like yacht. Okay, so you anchor your yacht if you're Jeff Bezos, I guess. So we've got this anchored right there. And then I'm going to do this one, and hopefully it won't lose my view. There we go. And this one, and drag it right here, and this one. So I'm dragging the red dot. And if you're on a blue layer, it would be a blue dot. And then you can see that this is anchored because we have a little anchor right there. So now, if I come in here and maybe I delete a whole line of type, all the pictures moved up with the text. It's not grouped. I don't have to ungroup and regroup. It's just an anchored object. Okay, now how do you unanchor it and all that kind of business? As you would expect, you can right-click on it and then anchored object, release. That will unanchor it, and then there's some other options we'll look at in a minute, okay? So that is what we call a hanging anchored object. If we go down into this page, we can also create inline anchored objects, okay? So I do this a lot if I'm writing like textbooks or something where I might have lots of special little icons or things in the text. If you're putting in little mini logos and things. So here I have these icons, and I'm just going to scale them down so they're like the size of the type. Okay, and we'll zoom in here so you can see this. So here, oh, and they all got flipped upside down and messed up. You get the idea. So let's say I want to take this now, and I want it to flow with the type. In other words, I want it to behave as though it's a letter in the text right there. So then what we're going to do, and I turned them all upside down. Let me put this right side up so I'm not confusing you. There we go. So that the box is on the top. So this time we're going to drag the box, but we're going to hold shift. And so let's just pretend that it goes here. Okay? And now, and I can drag it down like this. I can still even scale it and drag it around. I can use my type tool to get in here with my cursor, and I could add a space so that we've got a space on either side of it. And now, if I come up here in front of it and I type, it just moves as if it's text. How cool is that? So handy. So you can practice doing all of that here with these icons and stuff. So it's, like I said, I use this quite often writing tutorials, and I'm adding like a screenshot of some micro icon or something. It's incredibly handy. So that is called an inline anchored object. To get it out of here, you can try right-clicking on it and choosing this whole anchored object thing, but you'll notice release is not an option this way. So what you want to do is just delete it, and if you click away, you can paste it, you can paste it back onto your, I hit delete, I didn't hit cut. There we go. You can cut it and then paste it. So here it is, pasted back, and now it's loose. It's unanchored again. And here's a random thing that I just wanted to share when I was creating those little pretend icons that I find helpful when I'm working in InDesign, and that is the difference between when you're placing like a logo or an icon or a graphic, right? You know that you can choose File and Place, and you can place like an Illustrator graphic, right? And then you get this result here. But depending on what you're doing, you can also, if you open that file up in, say, Illustrator, and you copy the artwork and you paste it here, do you see the difference? Look at my swatches panel. If I click on this guy, it says nothing because it's a placed Illustrator file. If I copy and paste from Illustrator, I get this line art with the color, which means now if I'm like, oh, I need to change this, I want this to be neon, I can change that artwork in InDesign without having to go do it in Illustrator. I just find that wildly helpful. I sort of discovered that by accident, and I was like, I need to preach it from the mountaintop because it's so good. Okay, one other kind of anchored object is called above line anchored objects. So this you might use when you are working with pull quotes, for example. Of course, we all know that you can just take this pull quote that's right here, and you can just plop it wherever, and you can just put a text wrap on it and live your life. But then when the copy gets edited and the pull quote needs to move, you have to move it. And we want to avoid those types of things. So here is what we do instead. So we have our text frame here. I'm going to use my type tool, and I'm going to, let's say we want it here. So you can see the paragraph return. I'm just gonna add an extra one. And now I'm gonna go switch to my, whatever, move tool, whatever it calls it in InDesign. It's a move tool, right? Selection tool. Okay, so now we have this here, and we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna grab this little dot, and because we want it in the text and to flow like text, we're gonna shift drag just like we did with the icons. So I'm gonna put this here. Did it go? I don't think it went. There we go. So now it's in, and I'm gonna drag it into the position I want it to be. Of course, it's on top of everything, not very helpful. So we're gonna do two things. We're gonna right-click, and we're gonna choose Anchored Object Options. And here's where we tell it that we want it to be inline or above line. And here you can get really specific with like exact stuff. We're not going to do that. But then we can come back over here and apply our text wrap. And now, if I come in here and this whole thing like gets deleted, it flows with the type. So you can edit copy however you need to, and you won't have to move it all the time. Okay, so those are 3 types of anchored objects. Do you guys want to talk about lists? You guys use lists? Do you love lists? You already know bulleted lists and numbered lists. Well, if not, I made a little, there's instructions here, and I made, look at this, you guys, it's little animals, and it's ag stuff. So when I Googled around, I was like, what are the animals that are like the standard when you sing the old McDonald's song? And this is what it was. So how do we turn this into lists? So I'm gonna select all of this text here, and with my type tool active, I've got my little bullets up here in my control panel, and I know a lot of people like the properties panel, which I apparently have open somehow here. So you can also find this in your properties panel. I personally really don't like the properties panel, so I'm not doing it there, but you can. Now here's the thing, if I just click bullets, it will apply some bullets, and I probably don't like them, and then I have to go back and edit them and whatever. So you know you're gonna wanna edit the bullets anyway, so if you Alt or Option click on the bullets button, you get bullet options right here. And now we can choose. We're gonna make a bulleted list, and maybe we want the bullet to look like this. You can also add bullets from other fonts, like Windings or whatever. You can make your own custom stuff. Let's do this little arrow. And why is it disappeared for some reason? Okay, well that's fine. Oh, preview. You guys see? Good. You're catching on. Yes, preview. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I tell you, when you're up here, you can't see anything. Okay, so then you can come down and you can change all this stuff. We can apply a character style. Now, here's the thing. The character style is what dictates the bullet. So if I want to, and now I have everything highlighted, so I think it's going to apply it to everything, but let's see. Blue, can we even see that? Not. It's so hard to see the colors. There we go. There's lime, right? So I already have a character style created that I'm applying here, but if you did it, if you're like, oh crap, I forgot to make my character style for my bullets, then you just click this drop-down arrow and you click New Character Style, and then you make it, and you can style the size, color, whatever it is you want, okay? And now this is where it gets really confusing, and honestly, every time I teach this, I get anxious because I know I'm gonna screw it up. but I'm gonna show you anyway. So here we have this whole left indent, first line indent. And if you've played with this, you know what happens. You get error messages all the time, right? And it tells you you can't set it, whatever. What's happening here is we're pushing the indent in. That's this left indent. And then we're going to use a negative number for the first line indent to pull the bullet back out. So it's ridiculous. I think this is one of the most urgently needed redesigns in InDesign is this dialog box. But what we're going to do is, you can see if I adjust this left indent, it's going to move the bullets in, and then I can come down here, and now I never remember. Oh, you guys, I did it without getting the error message. So you push it over and then pull that first line out to line up everything where you want to get it. But the message that you often get, as I'm sure if I keep messing with this, I can get it to do it. One more, there it is. Invalid indent value. So they have to be, whatever the positive number is, the negative number cannot be more negative than the positive number is positive. Don't you think that could just be redesigned? Like, you want your bullet here and your text here, but they'll get on it someday, right? All right, so then, of course, you would want to make this as a list paragraph style. So you save it. The easiest way to create a paragraph style is to style some text the way you want it, put your cursor in there, and Alt or Option click on New Paragraph Style. So I'm Alt or Option clicking. I'll get a list here, and we'll call it Demo List, or I'll get the settings here. We want to apply to selection and click OK. And now this paragraph is Demo List. This paragraph is not, because the cursor wasn't here, but if we apply Demo List to all of those, and let's say I want to change it now. Let's say we've got a whole document with all this stuff. I can come in here and edit Demo List. What can I change about it? Let's go down to bullets and numbering, which I can never find. Here it is. And maybe instead of lime, let's move this. We'll turn on preview. Let's go to lime, and maybe we want blue. And it changed. And it would change in all 2,000 pages of your document. Okay, so that is how that works. Bullets. Same with numbered lists. So here I have how to make grandma's famous apple crisp. You gather the ingredients, of which there are apples, cinnamon, and sugar. There's probably a few more, but chop it up, combine it all, put it in the oven, and then lastly admit that it will never be as good as grandma's. So if we want to make this like a step-by-step list, we can come in here and we'll put our cursor in here, we'll select all this stuff. I'm going to Alt or Option click on numbers, and we'll say that we want a numbered list. We can play with all of these ridiculous things again till we get that how we want. And we can also have level 2s. So we're going to say that this is a level 2 or a level 1 list. So it's just every item is a step. But like apples, cinnamon, and sugar should be not numbered, right? That should be a different level. So I'm going to go back up in here, and we could make this one bullets if we want, or if we wanted it to be I don't know, somehow different, we could make it a level 2, and we could tell it that we want it to be ABC or whatever. And we could adjust it more, okay? So this is a level 1 and level 2 list. So just so you know, I don't expect you to be like, perfect, I've got it now, I'm gonna rock list making. No way, this is way too fast. I get it, but I want you to know that it's there, so when you get home and you're like, I need to do that thing, and I know it's possible, and now I know to Google X, Y, or Z, or whatever, okay? And of course, you can practice with this document. So we have 10 minutes left. Oh my gosh, okay. This is a fun little thing that you can do. It's a little fun trick for making your images pop out like this. I'll just show you quickly with one. The instructions are all here. There's two different ways. One is within InDesign, one requires bopping into Photoshop. But I'm just gonna copy this document, or this frame, and then I'm gonna choose Edit, Paste in Place, and then I'm gonna grab the frame, and I'm just gonna, make sure autofit is off or it won't work. So I'm extending the frame so that I can see her hat. Okay, so I have one on top of the other. See this? Okay, they're lined up though. Then I'm gonna zoom in, and boy, the redraw on this is crazy. I'm gonna grab my pen tool, and I'm gonna just make a very crude outline. And I really, drawing with a pen tool in front of people is not my favorite thing. Anyway, the point is you don't have to be perfect. So there we go, and then I can fix all of this because I really screwed it up. Okay, let's call this good, and we'll delete the fill. And now I have an outline of the hat there, okay? I'm gonna leave that. In fact, let's put a stroke on it so you can see, because otherwise this gets really confusing. Oop, not a fill, a stroke. Here we go. There it is, okay? So we can see that ugly stroke. Now, this copy of the image, I'm going to delete or cut, so I'm pressing Command or Control X. Now I'm gonna select the hat frame, and now I'm gonna choose Edit, Paste Into. Oh, let's do Paste in Place, Edit, Paste in Place. No, hold up. We'll cut that fill, there we go. So I'm cutting the contents of the frame. Now we'll delete the frame, and then we can select this frame. Oh, I have to turn off autofit. That was my other mistake. Turn off autofit, and now we're gonna choose Edit, Paste Into, and now we can get rid of this dumb stroke, which is not needed. I just was using that so you could see better. And now we have like a fun little cutout. So, but do we see what's really happening? We have this frame here, and then we have a second instance that just is the hat. So just fun little stuff you can do. And then over here, I added a little inner shadow to just kind of, to the frame, not to the hat, to just sell it. Down here, I just went into Photoshop and I created a selection of the carrots, copied them into their own layer. And actually, this is really quick. We'll do Edit, Paste, Paste in Place. And we'll extend this frame. And did you know you could do this? I don't know if you did. I'm going to show you. Okay, so here's the same thing. I've got the carrots copied into another instance. And now I can just right-click on there and choose Object Layer Options. Because this is a PSD with layers in Photoshop, now look, it's showing me the Photoshop layers. And I could say hide the background, and I can turn on preview. And now it's popping out at the top. Does that make sense? So, and those instructions are all here. Autofit will get in your way here, so just keep an eye on autofit. This is here, I just want to show you in our last 6 minutes, or just tell you at least, that you can convert a PDF to an InDesign document. Did you know that? Not just place it. I'm not saying like take the PDF and place it. I mean convert it. So I have the instructions here, and this is a link to a beautiful brand guide from Kiss the Ground that if you want to download, the link is right here, and then you can, I mean, you have your own PDFs. But if you really are inspired and you want to use this one, that is the link to it. And it's actually pretty amazing. We were also talking a little bit about AI and InDesign, and I think generative fill is in InDesign beta right now. I think it's coming soon. But we currently have generative expand, and here's an idea of how you might use it. So if I have this image here, God, it's so slow. Oh, maybe it's locked because I probably did that. I'm keeping you on your toes, you guys. There it is. I just don't want you guys to think that I'm like better than you, so I need to just show you I'm a real person, okay? So, wrong layer. Okay. Here is our frame, and it might be that you need to take an image and maybe you need it to be really wide and narrow, and obviously we can resize it. But if we just scale this up, we won't be able to tell what it is anymore. It's just going to be like a green blur. So the other thing we can do is open up our contextual taskbar by choosing Window, Contextual Taskbar, and you'll notice that just because this is selected, this is contextual, so the things that it says here changes depending on what you have selected. So because I have this thing selected and because it knows that I just expanded the frame much beyond the image, it is suggesting to me that I might want to use generative expand. So I'm going to click on it, and then it's like, ooh, would you like to enter a prompt? No, thank you. I'm just going to click generate, and it's going to take a minute. And then the text to image thing pops up, because for some reason this isn't in the properties panel. I think I don't know, it's like they throw darts sometimes. I know, that feature that's in every other application's property panel, we're going to put it in text to image in InDesign. Okay, so look at that. So it just generated with AI all of that extra image data, and it actually made, and you can see I did this a few times earlier, so I have additional variations, but each time you run it, it generates 3 variations, and you can click on them to see, there we go. You can click on them to see if there's one that's better than the others. I think the first one was good. Yeah, and it's super easy, and that has a very practical use, I think. Okay, we did make it to table of contents, and we have 3 minutes. Okay, I'll let you read this part later, but let's just pretend. Let's go up here, and let's pretend that we're going to change pre-flight profile. We're going to change the header in this document to bouncer list. I don't know. Okay, so I've just updated my document here. This is a chapter heading, let's say. And now in my actual generated table of contents, it still says pre-flight profile, not bouncer list here. Because I generated this previously, and it's not live. It doesn't update on the fly every time you edit something. You have to go and tell it to regenerate the table of contents. So now I can select the table of contents, and we can go to Object, and Layout. Layout, you have to know the right menu. Believe it or not, it makes a big difference. Layout, Update Table of Contents, and I just got this little thing that says, it's been successfully updated, and now it says Bouncer List, and it's hot linked to the appropriate page number, and we can have it make bookmarks as well so that they will all carry out into a PDF. It's very exciting. And that was just by updating it, okay? So where does it know? How does it know what it puts here? I'll give you the skinny. It's written on that page. But when you generate table of contents from the layout menu by choosing table of contents right here, it's going to give you this page where you tell it what paragraph style. You have to use styles or this won't work. So maybe this will convince you. But you have to use paragraph styles, and I simply told it I wanted all of my text that's tagged with the head paragraph style, that needs to be an entry in my table of contents. I told it I want it to have page numbers somewhere, etc. And then you can actually style it, and I created paragraph styles and character styles just for the table of contents, so everything would look nice, and that's all there is to it, really. And you can play with this. Again, this is all in the demo file here, so if you want to download it, this is the QR code for that file, and you can play with it and test it out. So thank you so much for having me, and I can take questions. It's 5 o'clock, so we will wrap this, but I'll still be here if you want to come up with more questions. So thank you.